On this day in 1970, young Air Force officer Hafez Assad launched a power grab in Syria. Few expected him to last, but 50 years on and his family is still in charge, now under the tight grip of Bashar al-Assad. Syria is in ruins after almost a decade of civil war, which has killed 400,000 people and displaced many, many more. Well, Robert Ford is a former US ambassador to Syria between 2011 and 2014, and he joins me now from the US state of Maine. Thanks very much for speaking with us. You met with Bashar al-Assad on multiple occasions. Just give us some of that insight into what it was like.
President Assad speaks fluent English. Of course, he studied ophthalmology in London, and his English was quite good. The times I met him, he was personable, but he didn't tell the truth. It was remarkable how he would not hesitate to lie to your face.
And it seems that even before the civil war, Syria was terrified of the Assad family, especially of the secret police forces which they had control over.
Mm-hmm. Syria has 4 different secret police agencies. Think about that. Not 1, not 2, but 4. They watch everyone in the country, and they also watch each other. It's one of the means by which the Assad family ensures that there is no coup d'etat against them.
Now, many Syrian refugees would love to move back to their homeland. The ones that I've spoken to say it's a long-held dream of theirs. But they'd only do that if it was safe, and they'll only do that if there's rebuilding efforts going on. Realistically, when do you think that would be the earliest we could see that happening?
It's so far off into the future that no one could name a time. The 4 secret police services that we were just talking about are going nowhere. And they do arrest people sometimes when they come back from overseas. Sometimes they merely impress them into the army, but other times they imprison them and basically disappear. So it's not very safe. And as far as rebuilding goes, the government is broke. Its allies, countries like Russia and Iran, have no money to pay for the reconstruction of Syria, and it's an expensive reconstruction operation. The World Bank has estimated that it will cost over $300 billion.
From people that I've spoken to who visited Damascus before the war, they said it was buzzing, the souk, the bars, it had nice cafes. Just explain to us what it was like being there before and then through that first stages of that civil uprising.
I arrived in Syria 2 months before the uprising began in earnest, and I had visited Syria as a tourist several times. And Damascus, Aleppo, Hama, Homs were wonderful cities, very vibrant shops. Syrians are, I think, by nature entrepreneurial, and they filled markets with all kinds of things, wonderful food. The Syrian cuisine is outstanding, and the people are lovely. The people are just fabulous. Unfortunately, they're governed by an exceptionally brutal and repressive government. When the uprising began in March of 2011, it was during the time of the Arab Spring. People had watched the fall of the Egyptian president, Hosni Mubarak, and they thought perhaps the same thing could happen in Syria. I don't think anyone, when the uprising began, expected the level of destruction, of death, and the ruin of the country as it has turned out.
Robert Ford joining us there, a former US ambassador to Syria. Thank you very much indeed.